Well, it is great to be here, and yeah, save your applause. You might not. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. It's great to be here today. It's exciting to see this as the inaugural event, starting with the Harvest Wyoming, and a lot of great information being shared here this morning and this afternoon here. So we are located. My name's Evan. My wife Terry's over there in the front, and we have a farm just outside of Hardin, Montana. So we're just up the road a bit to the north, and my main job is I work for the NRCS, the USDA NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service, but I am not here in representation of the NRCS, just wanted to, but it has a connection with the soil health and where I started to learn and see the amazing connection between soil and plants and how we can start working with the system and the way it's designed to work with fertility and seeing our crops grow with less inputs. And so we started to apply those things to our farm, our garden, actually, and then that kind of grew into Living Root Farm, which we established in 2016, officially started Living Root Farm. And so part of the team, this is our kids back when we first started Living Root Farm and our first farmers markets and there in Hardin. And they've all grown up, and we've added some more members to our family. And so this is the current. We've got a couple 6-year-old son and a daughter, and my oldest daughter is now married, and her husband Ben, and then we've got a grandson, so little Caleb. And so it's pretty cool. It's amazing how time flies. That is just wow. When we first started Living Root Farm, and I thought my kids would be around forever, just helping out with the farm. And that's one of the things I didn't really calculate as their ability to help and a busyness of life. And so our goal is to provide local grown, sustainably produced, nutrient-dense food for our community. And that's a word salad there, I realize. But it really is that there's such a connection with food and our communities, and our connection of food that brings us to the land, to the soil. And when those pieces of the puzzle started coming together for me as I was learning about soil health and the interaction of soil with our plants and how it's more of an ecosystem than it is a chemistry set, that kind of just blew my mind, and started to see how plants would then respond then to a healthy soil. And so really it starts with the soil and trying to make sure that we are managing our cropping system and our growing operation in a way that is building soil and not degrading it. As you know, the soil, who's been told you are what you eat? You've heard that saying. So mom was right, or grandma, whoever first told you that. The soil is the foundation of nutrition. And we think about that if on the left-hand side is a plant, and all those nutrients, those little colored dots, those are different nutrients needed. You got your potassium, your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and then your micronutrients and the minerals and that are necessary for plant health. Well, all of those things tie and correlate to our human health. And you think about that, we don't get our nutrition just by absorbing it out of the atmosphere. We have to consume our food, and our food is our source of nutrition. So our plants that are consuming and utilizing those nutrients, we are then ingesting that. And so really the condition of our plants, the nutrient density of the food that we eat is essential. You can eat a tomato from the store, and you can eat a tomato that you grew in your backyard, and every one of us knows the difference in the taste, and that taste does correlate with nutrient density. And so it's amazing to think about all of the food that we do produce on a commercial scale, but is it really nutrient dense? Is it really giving us what we need? And the statistics is pretty shocking about the population of the world. Over 2 billion people suffer from micronutrient deficiencies. And that's mind-blowing. It's like, why is that? And in America alone, and I don't know if I have I don't have my little note thing. I had it all broken down, but the nutrient deficiency, over 90% of Americans have some nutrient deficiency of phosphorus or potassium or calcium. Iron's a big one. And why is that? Well, we're consuming a lot more processed foods. Yes, they're enriched with nutrients, they say, sometimes, but really coming from that raw, nutrient-dense produce that we buy is the best way to get that into our system. So if we're looking at how plants get those nutrients, that's where we have to see how that plant interacts with the soil. And the soil, and there's such a dynamic relationship there that that's the mind-blowing part. It's no longer looking at soil as just a growing medium that we put synthetic fertilizers in order to get a healthy plant. What we really start to realize and observe in nature is how the microorganisms, arthropods, the macro invertebrates and the microinvertebrates, all those things that we see living in the soil profile actually have some relationship interaction with the plant. That's because the plants are the only thing that can actually harvest sunlight, the energy, and produce a sugar out of it, photosynthesis. And so that sugar is life. That sugar is the energy that life exists on, is that carbon cycle. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. This is I took a soil sample and we put it under a microscope and we did some videos here. And so looking at the different diversity of microorganisms, this is just out of a pinch of soil, saturated in some water, and then a dropper of it put on a slide. And so if you're looking at this, you see a lot of things moving. And so the little shimmery dots, those are bacteria. You see the larger critters that are swirling around on the screen, those are protozoa. Oh, the volume changes when I talk, or if I don't talk. Then we got amoebas. This is a quick little shot there. There's a rotifer down there, protozoa, and then amoeba. That guy right in the middle, I believe. Yeah, he's starting to move right here. It's just fascinating to see the diversity. And so have you seen the statistics or the statement, I guess I see often, is that in a tablespoon, that's a nematode, so that's a micro organism, a worm type that's in the soil. Now you hear about nematodes, you think right away, pest, disease. But only 10% of the species that we find of the microbial community is actually a parasitic. The other 90% is beneficial to our plants and the way that they interact with plants. And so there's life in the soil. And so if you take a tablespoon of healthy soil, you have over 8 billion different organisms in there. That's the same as the human population on the earth today or more. And that's just in a little tablespoon of healthy soil out of your garden. And that's pretty amazing because we don't know about hardly any of those species. We're still discovering and categorizing them. We know what kind of group or family they fall into, bacteria, protozoa, fungi, nematodes, and all those things. But it's just amazing to see all the diversity of life in the soil profile when it's healthy. And that's the key. And so learning those things and the tie to plant health from soil health made us start to question things, and so and question why we do what we're doing. And so this is our garden site, our original garden site when we moved to this property in 2007, just outside of Hardin, and we tilled up part of the pasture right outside the corral. It looked like it was had good color and it had some good drainage, had a little slope to it. We originally started up by the house, and it was very heavy clay, and it didn't grow very well, so we ended up moving the site. And so my neighbor had this 3-point tiller, and we just ripped it all up. And I thought, oh, that's great. Did that for a few years, and then started learning about the soil health principles and why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense. Tillage, of course, as we're going to look at, does a lot of damage and disrupts that microbial community that is beneficial to our plants. And so with conventional gardening, we always fought the weeds, the watering. We had woes with that, and then, of course, more weeds. They're always there. And not to say that we're weed-free, not by any means, but it seems like they're extra angry at us. And so that's our watering, just the soil. It's nice when you till it all up, you get that nice fluffy soil. What happens after you put that first inch of water on it? It compacts, it seals up. And then you put that next inch of water on it the next week or when you feel like it needs it, and it's not soaking in as deep as it should. It's running off. And when you put an inch of water on there with your sprinkler, you go out there in the morning, walk out there, it's all mud. It's sticking to your feet. Something isn't right. our soils were what we like to say is bare, naked, and afraid, because it's broken down, there's no cover, there's no structure, and it's susceptible to extremes. And so this was one of our first harvests after that, off of that first new site, I should say, that new garden site. And you can see the weed pressure, you see the production's not so good. We had a lot of, we were learning how to garden too. We weren't very savvy that way. So we started applying the soil health principles, and we'll go through each of those here in a bit of what they are. But we started seeing some improvements to the soil structure. We started seeing the crops respond with better productivity, better health of the plants, and it was fun. It was exciting. You started to see earthworms, and start to abound in that soil when you would take a scoop of it up. And so that first picture is hard panned or rock, I don't know, but the carrots are a great way. Root crops, you can see where that one takes that hard 90 and grows around. And that's probably from the tillage, from the years of tillage that we had. You create that hard pan right at the bottom of where that rototiller can reach to in the depth of your soil profile, and you're just sealing off that surface. So really, you're only growing in the top 6 inches because those roots don't want to penetrate through that hard pan. It depends on your soil type, your texture. If you're heavy clays, it's going to be worse. In a sandier soil, it's not going to be so susceptible to a hard pan. But we're on a loam, a Haverson loam, just in the Bighorn Valley there. We're about a quarter mile off the river. And our soil structure is what we really noticed. When you dig up a clump of soil around a crop, around a root, and the texture of your soil is what you're looking for. You want to see it like cottage cheese, kind of crumbly. It's got good soil aggregation. And also the color of the soil is the key thing. You want to see that mocha brown, because that means it has a lot of organic matter in there. It just escaped me what those acids are. Humic acids that are in those soils. Those are all sources of carbon in that carbon cycle that the plants are benefited by, and your soil is benefited by. And so you can see all that cover that we put on the soil with our mulch. And so we went strictly no-till. We have 0 inputs of synthetic fertilizers on our crops, and we've been doing this since 2012 is when we started applying the soil health principles, and it's just been awesome to see. The production continued to increase on our plants without any inputs. So it's all about the soil, and that's where if we start gardening or growing our produce with the soil health principles in mind, we're going to get more value out of the crops that we are growing, such as nutrient density, such as disease resistance, more resiliency in the system. When you get that hailstorm that comes through, those plants are going to respond quicker and heal up quicker. When you have the drought and the extreme heat, you're going to see those plants be more level and consistent through there and not so susceptible to those extremes. All right, incorporating the soil health principles. This is that same garden site after that year 3 of doing that, so about 2015. And you don't see any bare ground. That's number 1. And you see healthy, productive plants. This was actually an epic year for grasshoppers too. They came in, they were in the garden, and they would eat leaves, but that plant was just so, it would respond, and eventually it just made it through, and we didn't really see a decrease in production because the plants were set up to be more resilient to those extreme pressures. That's a picture of some cover crops, and then and some of our side gardens that we have herbs, and we've expanded too. I took out my slides on high tunnels, unfortunately, because I saw there's a bunch of stuff in high tunnels. But we have 2 30 by 72 high tunnels also, including about a quarter of an acre outdoor garden space. And so the high tunnels we built, first year was 2016, we built our first one, and then 2018 we built our second one. Both the same size, that 30 by 72, and we utilize that grant program through the NRCS for the high tunnels, which is available today. Put a plug in there, go see your local NRCS office, and it's not scale dependent. If you can do a 20 by 20 or whatever, you don't have to put up the 30 by 72 or the 30 by 96 that you see of these commercial size ones. That was off the clock too. I'm not NRCS. So this is a shot inside of our high tunnel, one of them. And so we flip-flop the high tunnels, but since we got 2 of them, we'll put all our successional crops, the ones that we're going to plant multiple times through the growing season, in one of the high tunnels. We call it our salad tunnel. And then the other one will be our season-long, like our tomatoes, our peppers, our cucumbers. And so we'll plant it, right about now, middle of April, and then that'll go through into our killing frost, which is anywhere from October to November. Depends on how cold the nighttime temperatures get. So principle number 1 is keep it covered. So how do we do this? How do we incorporate the soil health principles? Why would you want to keep it covered? Well, again, our soils were bare. They were susceptible to that extreme heat. And then when you do irrigate with sprinklers or rain comes, it's going to continually pound that soil surface and it breaks down that soil structure. And so keeping that soil armored is essential to promote the life in the soil, the microbial community, because you want those microbes there happy and healthy. And so in order to do that, you need to protect it. You need to allow those microbes to build that soil structure, for those earthworms to thrive also, the macroinvertebrates that we have in the soil. And also provide a food source for all of that life in the soil. And so using mulches such as wheat straw, barley straw, triticale, and old alfalfa is another good one. They all have pros and cons. But this is especially with the heat that we get in the middle of summer. Sheridan's a little bit less than what we get in Hardin. Hardin, we're hot. We get the 105 to 107 degree days for a couple of weeks on end, and it's like everything just wants to wilt and die, and you can't get enough water. Well, with the soil structure being built and keeping that armor on the soil, you're going to keep that water from evaporating, and you're going to increase also the water holding capacity of the soil, and also the infiltration rate. So when you do water, it goes in and it stays there. We're plant available. That's the key. So armoring it with cover. So in this picture, we're using some wheat straw. Wrong one. And that's it all mulched up. And so usually I look at Father's Day. Father's Day weekend, we want to have it mulched up and ready because the heat starts coming after that. And so we try to get everything mulched up by then. It's just a set date in my mind to be working towards, and because obviously it takes some time to do this if it's all manual labor. And so the biggest warning or caution I want to give you, though, is know where your straw is coming from, because herbicide residual has gotten us in the past. We went 5 years without any problems, and then that 6th year I got some, and I just started mulching along my beans, and I couldn't finish. I just got too busy. And I noticed that half my beans died that had mulch on them, or they were starting to wilt. And so it had a broadleaf herbicide residual. And I've been told that you're just like, well, look at the label, 18-month, but that's only for standing straw. When you put it into a bale, that chemical will be more persistent longer than what the label says. So you can do a bioassay if you've got a source of straw you're interested in getting or have an opportunity to get. Take a clump of that straw, soak it in water overnight, and have yourself a pea plant or petunia, or grow some lentils in a pot, and water it with that water extract from that straw soaking in it, and you'll know within 24 to 48 hours if there's something in there. That plant will wilt if there's any kind of herbicide residual in there. And so I quit the wheat straw after having that bad experience, and so then I got old alfalfa. Alfalfa is great. It's a great source of nitrogen. There is no chemical or herbicide residual on there that will harm your garden plants. Not to say that they don't use insecticides and all that, but most of that stuff is not going to, it's going to break down quicker, and it's not going to be harmful to your plants.
How thick is that layer of
It's thick. And so we try to get it, the big thing is you're keeping that soil armored to keep the temperature regulated. The biology in the soil is, 70 to 90 degrees is optimum. If you get above that, it starts to go dormant. And so try to keep it in that 80-degree range. And so get yourself a thermometer probe that's used for, you can get at the garden center, stick it in there, check your soil temperature. And so keep it thick enough to keep that thermal barrier there, but also keep weed suppression down. That's another big one, and it also keeps the evaporation.
It pretty much breaks down.
Yeah. Once you get this proverbial ball of soil health rolling, this is all consumed by winter. So we'll put down tons and tons of straw. I love taking other people's carbon and putting it on my garden, you know, because it's.
Do you ever use leaves?
I don't have a good source of leaves. They would work, yep. The big thing is with leaves, they can, if they're too fresh, or they can mat down and cause an anaerobic. And you don't want to be anaerobic, you want to be aerobic, where there's oxygen getting in there.
So what do you want the temperature to be?
Below 95, 90 degrees, 90 to 72.
Not the air temperature.
Right, the soil temperature, yeah, and the top inch of soil. That's the key thing, so.
What about newspaper?
Pine straw, I might be slow to break down. I'm not sure if there's tannins.
Pretty good.
I would think so. Yeah, anything that lets air in there, but is a carbon source. The only thing I'd be questioning about on pine is the tannin levels. You might get some hindrance there to plant growth with that. Yeah, and my favorite was the triticale. It spreads easy, and the guy that grew it didn't spray anything on it because it was just a cover crop for him, and then he bailed it off, and I got that. And then I got volunteer triticale coming in certain areas, which is a great cover crop. Just don't want it too thick. You can always just go in there with a weed whipper and mow it down, and it'll stop growing. Yeah, and so this stuff will break down. Once you get that microbial community happy and healthy, it'll eat this stuff like nobody's business. And so like right now is the barest time on our gardens after winter, because even through the winter, if you get snow cover, that biology is breaking down that carbon source and utilizing it. It's pretty amazing to see. And all that's doing is taking that carbon, putting it into the soil profile. That's building the soil health. It's building the fertility of the soil for the plants next year. And it really is a great, one of our number one tools to.
What about shredded newspaper?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you were asking that. Be careful of the inks on those things. Some of the cardboard that they produce has a plastic film in it. During COVID, the school called me up, said we got all this milk cartons, or milk that's is out of date. They can't serve it. And we had pigs, and so they're like, we want the milk for the pigs. I'm like, sure, you know. So we emptied thousands of these little cartons, and then we put all those cartons, since they're cardboard, in our compost pile. That was the biggest mistake because they have plastic liners in there. I was like, I'm still picking out.
Waxy.
Yeah, it's pretty persistent. So, yeah, carbon sources. Be careful. But I love the old alfalfa. It doesn't spread as well because it's really bound together, but it does create a nice mat, and it does break down and gives you. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong button. This is the alfalfa here in the garden. You can see it's more stemmy, and then we planted right through it, and you can see the sweet corn coming up in that light there.
Even my goats don't eat that.
And then we use compost too. We buy compost because we can't produce enough of it for our garden beds, and so I'll buy it from an organic certified compost company out of Lockwood, Montana, up there right outside of Billings. Agro-Organics is the name of it, and they're great, and they're really passionate about soil health, and he's careful about what he puts into his compost materials.
And that's what you have to watch, because down in Cheyenne, you don't want to get compost.
Because the lawn clippings.
You don't want to get compost from the compost facility.
Oh, yeah.
Because of chemicals.
Yep. So if they're taking in lawn clippings from, around town, there's no way to tell what kind of herbicide they put on that lawn clipping, especially, a persistent 2,4-D or broadleaf type of chemical that will go into the compost and be there.
Can you mention that name again, that law firm?
Agro-Organics. JB, he'll have to give me a kickback on his advertising. No, I was kidding. Agri, A-G-R-I, Organics.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the sod farm up there, Billy sells it in the big cubes,
Yeah.
the bags,
They're,
like 1 ton.
and they're getting it from,
I don't know where they get it, but I know they sell it.
yeah. And so, yeah.
Tibetans.
Yep, I know what you're talking about. Yep, I'm just be careful where that's coming from. Yep, because I'm not sure where that one's coming from. I've bought bad compost before. I had my eggplants just sit there and curl up. Yep, and it was supposed to be chemical free. So this was a garden expansion we did on just our pasture grass that's introduced species pasture, mostly tall wheatgrass and some native species of western wheatgrass. But we wanted to make the garden bigger because why not? To my wife's, my wife's over there like, yeah. It's always my idea. I try to make it sound like it's ours. And so we just got some old rotted straw, and that's where I get straw now that's at least 3 years old, and then I'm pretty safe with any herbicide residual. And it spreads nice, and it's already decomposing partially, and so we just matted it up thick on there, and it actually smothered the grass out, and we just planted pumpkins in there, and now it's part of our main garden. This is inside of our high tunnels. We've got 8 beds in there. We just scoop out the pathways, and then we make 30-inch beds up there. And initially, when we set this all up, now we have absolutely no soil disturbance of tilling or anything else. So these are 30-inch beds, and we've got two lines of drip tape down each bed. And we just put that compost on there about 1 inch thick on there, and cover each bed every year. And then we'll plant right through it. So we don't do any tillage, no soil prep, no broad forking. I don't know why market gardeners are so obsessed with broad forks. They think that's the best thing in the world. Who has a broad fork? No, I'm just kidding. You guys don't even know what it is. Good. I actually just saw a post on social media by this guy that had pictures of people broad forking, and then they had the whole thing was talking about zero till and how great it is. I'm like, that's kind of counter. That's soil disturbance yet. So this is the garden area just outside of our high tunnel. We got fenced in. We do our melons in there, and then we do cut flowers in there also. And so I'll just mow down the residue and let that sit on the surface of the soil. And then I'll talk about weed control, how we prepare that for the next year.
Even tomatoes? I thought even like the tomato.
I put those in the compost. We haul those out because those are always in the high tunnel. We don't grow any outdoor tomatoes. Yeah, there's something about the, it'll break, it has the higher...
Well, I always heard that you don't even want to put those in the compost pile.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I break a lot of rules, and that hasn't really, there's a lot of things. I'm not a master gardener by any means, but you can see the ideally is to mulch that garden up in the fall before winter. It's going to catch that snow, and it's going to also, again, provide the food for the biology in the soil there as it's breaking down. And so you can see how the snow gets caught. We did the raised bed things out there too, just kind of scooped out the designated walkways and just built a kind of a mounded, everything grows better on a little bit of a mound, it seems like. And so, and then it provides a defined walkway there too. If you got kids or, people coming out, then at least they know not to walk down. It's kind of more of a natural deal. And then the other type of cover we use is landscape fabric. And so we'll do this in conjunction with using like cover crops. We'll grow a cover crop, and then we'll mow that down before we plant out, and we'll mow it down and make that as a green manure, and then put landscape fabric over it with these holes already melted through so that you can plant your transplants right into. That's a great way to reduce labor. You still have the biology being fed by that green manure underneath. It keeps the weeds down, and it also keeps that moisture in the soil there for those plants. And so anything to reduce labor, but also to try to make sure that we're protecting that soil. Keep a living root. And so our farm is called Living Root Farm, and because this is essential. You think about the growing season that we have, the time for plants to actually grow in our climate is pretty limited. And so as much as we can keep a solar panel out there of a leaf of a growing plant, it is going to be producing sugars and pumping it into the soil. And so living roots throughout the full growing season is ideal. And so that's what we can do that through different strategies. You have, like I mentioned earlier, our high succession crops, the ones that we're going to plant multiple times, our radishes, our carrots, our salad greens, our salad greens, our mustards and mizuna and arugula. And so also outdoors, keep a living root is we mow like our pathways. There's still a green cover there. And then also just crop diversity and making sure that we're filling in any space where we're harvesting. Like we'll plant our beets alongside of our green beans, and so your beets are going to be ready to harvest right about the time when your beans are just starting to really thrive. And so we'll plant them right next to each other. You got that living root. You got a legume crop with the beet. You can pull your beets out, and then the beans have room to expand, and just maximizing the space you have and keeping as much life as possible in there. And so this is in our salad tunnel for that year. And this is Mizuna and arugula that we had planted, kind of half of the bed of each. And we go in and we turn it over. Obviously it's bolted, and so it's time to pull that out and then plant another crop in there. And so we decided to not mow this. We decided to just pull it. So there is a little disturbance there, or at least shaking off the dirt from the roots. But it's kind of a cool video because if you'll see, there's a ton of life happening on the surface of the soil. Kind of watch those dirt clods. Oh, that was supposed to play. Back. Previous. There you go. So it's a time lapse.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little slug. It's not one. But do you see these little arthropods and stuff that are zipping across there? And so within the same time frame, we pull this out. We'll put an inch of compost on there, and we'll seed directly in there. And so that's what the next pictures are, and get another crop going. Oh, now it's just going to continuously play. There it is. And so we put the compost on top of that bed where we pulled that out, and then we go in and seed right into it. I think we seeded like beets in there for late harvest beets. There's a big old giant sunflower. We plant on the outside of our high tunnels because of the rain will come off when we do get rain, and you'll get extra moisture. Plus it's irrigated out there, but they seem to really thrive. We're adding pollinator habitat, attracting pollinators, beneficial insects. Anytime you get a flowering plant out there is ideal. Trying to work with life instead of trying to maximize killing things we don't want. So. This is another succession crop. We got salad turnips. This is a Japanese variety. It's real pure white, and so we'll grow those like a section of a bed at a time. So we got some ready to harvest. With part of our marketing deals, we had we would do CSAs. We haven't done them. We didn't do it last year. It was our first year not doing it, and just did kind of a direct market. People could come out and get what they would like. And then like carrots with the radishes. That was kind of a neat little oops there. I forgot that I had seeded carrots, and then I planted radish, or the other way around. I can't remember. But they ended up growing together, and it's like, wow, that actually works. So keeping a living root. And so this is that succession planting there where we got lettuce greens and kale. Kale's obviously going to be season long. Salad greens there in that one. And then we had some broccoli, flowering broccoli. Broccolette underneath that insect fabric there to try to keep the cabbage worms off. There is a cucumbers in the middle there that was the first time that we planted those in the salad tunnel was last year, and actually kind of worked good with our spacing that we needed. You can see those, even the aisleways, we mulch them up, trying to keep an armor on the soil to keep that moisture and temperature regulated, and then also it feeds the biology. Principle number 3 is minimize disturbance. Probably should have started with this one. And so like, well, how do I do a garden without tillage? That just seems like it goes hand in hand. And so we cut cold turkey in 2012 or 2013, I guess is the first year we didn't till. And just decided to plant right through the residue. And so it's hard to see in that photo, the lighting. Those are onions coming up through a corn stubble. We just plugged those in with a jab planter. This is a bean planter called an Easy Seeder that we bought from Morgan County Seed. And so this is how we're planting peas, I believe. Peas or beans? I think it's peas. Oh, it's supposed to play. There it is. It's just delayed. What's that?
You don't pull anything out of the dirt, then you leave all the roots in.
We try to leave all the roots, except for that Mizuna arugula stuff. We did pull those.
So to put your seeds in, you don't even make a row, you just...
Yeah, I have a string. I pulled a string there to make a straight line to follow, and then we just jab plant right through it.
Wow.
So you can see that residue, and this just has that jab point on the end, and every time he pushes down, there's a little rod that extends up into that mason jar and brings the seed up and drops it down the tube. It's kind of a really...
Okay, so...
You just got
From Morgan.
Morgan County Seed down in Missouri. Yeah, it's kind of an Amish-built thing. We had to reinforce it a bit. It had some durability issues after using it for a couple years, but it's a neat concept. We kind of use things hard. I mean, so put it to the test. But you can see the residue that we're planting into, and yeah, it's. So minimize that disturbance. Why? Because if you think about the microbial community, it needs that habitat, and the ideal habitat is that soil structure that's being formed every year throughout the growing season. It's gluing together the elements in the soil to build the soil aggregates, and so soil is made up of 45% minerals. Okay, if you have a 100% circle, you know the little, I should have put that pie chart up here. So 45% of soil is actually minerals. The other 25% is air, the other 25% is water, and then 5% organic matter. Now we're running with, doing this for how many years? We're up to about, in our high tunnels, we're about 12 to 15% organic matter, and out in our garden, we're closer to 18 to 20%. That's pretty high. Natural native range is around 4 to 5% organic matter. So we're really putting a lot of carbon into the system. And so when you go through with a rototiller, you're breaking down those soil aggregates, you're fluffing the soil up, makes it nice and soft for a temporary time, but you're breaking down all of that soil aggregates that those microbes had built while they weren't being disturbed. And so what do they have to put their energy back into is rebuilding that structure again, because they need the air, they need the water at the right proportions. Or we get that sealing off when we're watering, or if we're walking on it after we till, we're compacting, and you're not allowing that air and that water to infiltrate into that soil. And it's going to minimize the type of life that is growing in that soil, the types of microbial life that's in there. And so you're going to get a higher bacteria population. You're going to get less of the fungi, less of the protozoa with that soil structure being destroyed every year. And so, I mean, bacteria is everywhere. We're going to have that in your soil no matter what. But is it going to be the beneficial, or are you going to be more prone towards an anaerobic environment where you're going to get more of that disease and pest type of reaction or effect from the microbes?
When you're adding that high organic content, would it be good to add rotted manure or any kind of nitrogen to help break that down?
Well, the carbon nitrogen ratio is important. And so you got to be careful with manure, because there's extra salts and sometimes too much nitrogen. It can be too hot. And so make sure it's a good composted manure.
Like chips can rot.
Yeah. How many of you seen Back to Eden, the documentary, the guy that grows naturally in Washington, the state of Washington? Nobody? Wow. It was like a cult following there for like 5 years. Everybody I talked to was like, "Oh, have you seen this?" And his whole deal was he was taking wood chips and just like thick. And over time that will work, but if you just go in and just put a bunch of fresh wood chips in there, you're tying up the nitrogen, and because it's such a high carbon input. And so your plants, I had one guy over in Three Forks with a high tunnel, he watched that, and he just had truckloads of wood chips brought in. He covered his whole high tunnel and planted right into it, and then all his plants are just sat there like wimpy little yellow things all season, because he didn't have enough nitrogen for the extreme amount of carbon that he brought in. And so so that's why I like the...
It's not bad with the type of what you're adding with your mulch, you don't have that problem.
Yeah, I don't.
But could you have offset that with alfalfa pellets?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a source of nitrogen. So alfalfa as a mulch would actually be a nice way to offset it too.
Like on the top of
Yep.
chips?
Yep. So, I mean, you could, yeah. It just got to be careful with that ratio and nitrogen tie-up. I've seen and heard about wrecks that way. So, yeah, and soil test is a great way to know where you're at. How much nitrogen do I have available? And if you go with a soil test, there's one called the Haney test that'll look at the actual microbial population and the respiration rates and kind of show you how much nitrogen is actually available that is organic and will become inorganic and plant available. And so the Haney test kind of gives you a bigger snapshot than your standard soil test that just shows you your plant available nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Or if you want to get real fancy, you can do a PLFA, which is going to look at the DNA profile of the microbial community in there and show you how much bacteria, protozoa, fungi, all that. I mean, you can go deep if you want to go deep.
You know,
But
when you buy topsoil, a
Yeah.
lot of times it's dead.
yeah,
And I did think there was a place you could order stuff to kind of add into that to get it going again?
Oh.
Or, you know, to get the
What-
microbials going?
And so one thing that we did for years on end was compost teas. When we first started the soil health journey, I'd brew compost teas, and that's a whole nother talk with how to do that. And then I'd just use it as a soil drench along my plants, and that was really cool to see. I had a spot in my yard actually that we had newly planted yard, and one spot just really didn't do well, and I just put like 5 gallons of compost tea on there. And later in the summer, like, that's like the best looking part of the lawn. I don't know, maybe because of, I don't know. But a lot of this stuff is anecdotal. I mean, I don't have side-by-side studies like Extension does, but it's, you apply these principles and you see the cumulative effects of it, it's gonna bring you into a better place of seeing soil being built, more carbon in the soil, and resiliency added to the system. This is a Jang seeder. This is kind of a fancy version of like the Earthway. This one's more precise. You can get really detailed depth, and it does pretty well with a no-till situation, getting the seed placement, especially with small seeded crops like carrots, salad, beets, or they're not small, but radishes.
It uses plates, not belts.
No, it has a roller in there, and you get different rollers with little divots in it for the size of seed. And so, yeah, the Earthway has plates in it. This has actually a roller in it, and it has a brush on it, so you can really adjust for the size of seed. Once you can dial it in really nice for the depth, and then also with the different sprockets on the chain, you can change the spacing of the seed or the number of holes that's in that roller. And so
It's easier to do it by hand. It's easier than doing it by hand.
oh yeah, when you're doing the whole beds, like we can seed a 70-foot bed of carrots in 5 rows in 10 minutes. Once you got it set up for it, versus trying to drag a hoe and dribble seed all the way down there. And then this gets it pretty precise placement too. And so
Is that pelletized seed or just?
sometimes, most of the carrots we do now aren't, but we have bought it before and pelletized. That makes it more conducive to get better placement. But I just use they have a roller that has an X in it for lettuce seed, and that actually works really good for carrots too. You'll get more multiples planted that way than the pelletized. I can't say the word, but pelletized. There you go. Adding the syllable. That's the Jang seeder there. Obviously, the problem with this picture, you should have moved the drip tape before you do that. But, and then we do a lot of transplants. All of our season-long crops, like our tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers. And so this is in the high tunnel. We did use the plastic mulch. We stopped using that last year, and we started using landscape fabric in there, so we get multiple years use out of that. Either way, the drip tape's underneath that plastic. We do a green cover crop in there, like in March we'll seed that out, or we'll do a winter, a fall blend in there with ryegrass, and then we'll just mow off that green, and then put the plastic down, and then put the plants
So
right
you
through the
have to
plastic.
pull your weed barrier up and then seed your winter crop and then put it back down?
Yeah, yep. Because we're changing the house that's in anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll move it over.
And then you do that auger.
Yeah, the auger bit's Amazon, best place to get it. You can get a whole set of different size and diameters. And I love this for tomatoes because, tomatoes you want to plant deep. And so I can go right down to 12 inches in seconds with that, and plug it in and just move on. And I think we planted 270 tomato plants last year. This year we got 700 started. I don't know what we're doing. We might sell some plants. My son Joel, my oldest son, he wants to do the Billings Farmers Market and maybe come down here to Sheridan. So I said, well, tomatoes are what's going to sell. That's going to be your main. And so he was like, well, let's start enough. And so this is out in our outdoor garden here. And this is after we mulched it with straw, some old 3-4-year-old wheat straw. And then we're planting out our squash and our pumpkins in this video. You can see the mulch cover is pretty thick, and then I just use an auger bit on the drill. Ooh.
And
So I'll just punch the holes, Joel comes by, plugs them in, and we just plant the whole garden out pretty quick with that.
What kind of new plant? I hate shoveling.
Oh yeah, no, the auger bit is
well, and
And it's less disturbance because the shovel's gonna move a lot more dirt. This is just right where the plant's gonna go.
That would argue way too much.
I think this is, I've never heard of this concept before. This is the first time that I'm amazed.
Oh, well, good. That's a, I don't know why it's not told me. That's a, yeah, all right, minimize disturbance, hopefully.
Because I've got a new hoop house that I don't have, I mean, it's all native soil.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like, okay, I'm gonna throw it on straw.
Yeah, right, yep, and so straw it all up. And so it depends on your weed pressure, but we use occultation. I get these huge silage tarps. Our grain elevator, they have this big pile they make out there on the west side of town, and they cover it with these black and white tarps that are woven, they're really heavy duty, and then they just throw them away after they haul the grain off. And so, I mean, they just got a dumpster out there if they, and so we've gone up there and got permission and scavenged some of those and cut them to the sizes that will fit our garden.
Just heat kill your.
Yeah, and so the key with occulation is you want to get this really wet. So as soon as like this March, get the ground saturated as much as you can. Just put sprinklers out there, get some water on these nice warm days, and then cover it with the tarp. And so that moisture and then the heat that tarp's going to accumulate is going to cause that weed seeds to germinate, come up, and they'll be smothered out. And so we do that in March, and then by May, when we're ready to plant outdoors with usually it's pumpkin squash and some stuff outside, it's pretty weed free, and then we'll mulch it up once we get the plant.
So
Now, how about
where do you get-
rhizomatous grass, would that kill that? or not?
It does a pretty good job. There's some strongholds yet. We just make sure we keep mulching, keep it covered so it doesn't.
So where did you, a granary or
Well, yeah, I don't even know the name of the company anymore. It keeps changing owners.
what? I
Look
mean,
for those big, where you figure.
Like if I can find something down in Cheyenne, so I'm just going,
Yeah. So wherever, and not every place, they might just have the big silos that they put it all in, the elevators. But if they have those outdoor grain piles, wheat piles, they'll cover them with that tarp until they can get it trucked off.
There's places down by Greeley that I've seen those,
Like really?
where they had,
I can drive to Greeley.
Or drive to Hardin. I mean,
I'm in Cheyenne.
Oh, you're in China. Never mind. Okay.
It's like, I'll drive to Greeley.
Greeley's not far, yeah.
So that's the thin layered plastic mulch. We don't use that anymore. We're just using landscape fabric in the high tones. And so weed control. So this is that garden after all that straw is consumed. You can see that there's not much left. This is the time of year when it's the barest. And so on this bed we were going to go direct seeded. So we flame weed any of those little mustards and stuff that start up this time of year with a little moisture and heat. You'll see some of that start to grow. So you can just take a weed burner and it just basically cooks those tops and stops their growth. This is inside the high tunnel with the tomatoes. We trellis each one separately up to, you can see those little strings going up. And so these tomatoes will get 12 to 14 feet tall. by the end of the
They're not
season.
indeterminate.
These are all indeterminate.
Oh,
Yeah.
indeterminate.
Yeah, they keep growing all season long. Determinate will grow to a certain stage, and then they set everything on, and they're done.
How do you pick when they're 12 feet tall? Get planters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You hired 7 and 8 foot.
there's different strategies of lean and lower. You've seen with
That's
this.
what we did. I grew up in a greenhouse that did
Okay.
and they'd start coming up, and then by midway through June, we start leaning them out,
Yeah,
and they'd be 20 feet long.
on the gr- yeah, then
We
you just,
heated the greenhouse, so we go into November.
yeah. You just need the room to do that. Ours is wall to wall already when going straight up. We don't have any room to lean. So-
This variety, we were even able to do a 180 degree.
Oh, that's it.
So the end of the one row, we could wrap.
Yep,
You
okay.
just have to be gentle with them.
Oh, I
So
didn't
wrap
think
at the
about
end of the row, and then they head back the other
Yep.
Oh.
Makes sense. That's pretty awesome.
Was that kudzu?
Yeah, it was like that initially.
Can you grow crims? Any type of crims?
The black
Japanese?
ones?
The black ones,
Yeah.
I like the flavor.
We do mostly heirloom varieties, and then we
Good.
do a couple commercial varieties just to have those ones that people are looking for at the market that have no flaws, no cracks. We do like carbon. That's the black variety of the heirlooms. It's kind of a purplish.
Yeah.
That one,
Yeah.
and then the purple Cherokees are the ones. So I haven't done the crims, the real dark ones. I haven't tried those, but.
Well, do you sell local Hardin, or do you
Yeah.
have to go to that Saturday?
And we go, Thursday night is our River Valley Farmers Market in Hardin on Thursday nights, so.
Good.
Yeah, and then hopefully, it just depends on how the summer pans out, we might be down here, so.
You compete with Speedy?
The Speedy doesn't really grow the tomatoes, well, he does, but yeah, no, I'm not gonna get him to switch my market. So diversity of plants, principle 4, so I just don't run out of time here. I haven't even got to the marketing side of things, right? And so we use cover crops, like I mentioned earlier. We're just trying to make sure we're moving stuff around, that we're interplanting or interseeding, intercropping, I guess is the word, where we got crops growing together. And one of those is the Three Sisters. You guys are probably familiar or heard of that, where you got corn, beans, and squash grow together because they all complement each other. The beans are going to be a legume providing nitrogen for the corn. The corn's going to provide that structure for pole beans, and then you have the squash that you plant out that will give the ground cover and keep weed control down. And so you do that in a staged type of planting so that it's not competing until the corn gets high enough above canopy, then you plant your squash out. And et cetera. There's some good brochures out there if you're interested in that. NRCS in Montana just put out one about the Three Sisters. And so this is our cucumbers, and so we'll, again, early season, try to utilize the square footage. We put our Salanova lettuce on the sides of those cucumbers, and so the cucumber, it actually makes a real nice bed for those fresh cucumbers to go on top of. That's kind of an oops. And so talk about ladders. This is pruning and picking of tomatoes. In the end of July. Here's another shot of the cucumbers with Salanova salad growing in the same bed. And so we'll harvest those Salanova heads directly, like just one cut. We don't do the cut and come back on those when we're planting them with the cucumbers. We'll do that on some other beds. And then just keep things growing. So planting that diversity is the fourth soil health principle, because each plant type supports a different type of microbial community in the soil. And so you think about the roots and the root exudates. That's what the plants are extremely generous, and they produce more carbohydrates than what they actually need. The beneficial plants. Weeds don't. Weeds don't make this association with the microbial community. But these plants that are producing nutrient-dense foods have this relationship with the microbes that they're going to produce enough sugars in the soil and allow that to weep out to the soil profile that it attracts the microbial community there, because the microbes are bringing the nutrients to the plant that the plant needs. And so it's a symbiotic relationship where they're benefiting each other. And so it's really neat to see that. And so diversity of plants planted together, that's where we're using a multi-species cover crop, where you got radishes, turnips, you got brassicas, you got the grain, you got, and you plant it all together and allow that to flourish. That is going to help improve that soil on that footprint, because the microbial community is going to be fed in a diverse way. This Salanova lettuce again, that's one of our most popular heads that we grow. Especially while we'll get talking about them. Oh, we got time? About 2 minutes, right? Oh, crimson clover in with your beets. Excellent combo, interplanting, intercropping. Crimson clover is going to be a legume crop, providing nitrogen, provides a pollinator. It's just pretty. This is a little video just on top. This is me up on the ladder, talking about tomatoes and ladders. So this is picking cherry tomatoes.
Oh my God.
So that bar is 8 feet up.
Oh my God.
This is no fertilizer.
Just compost.
Or just compost and a green manure of the cover crop, yeah. And the chicken. Just more high tunnel shots. Some of those mammoth sunflowers and our melons. Pak choy. All right, fifth principle, if you can, is incorporate grazers. So we have a few cows. We'll turn them into the garden, let them just aftermath graze, make sure everything froze up so they're not destroying or compacting stuff, and pick up your irrigation system. Learn that the hard way.
Goats and chickens.
Chickens are a great way. They scratch through. I have a love-hate relationship with chickens. On the off-season, they're great. During when you're trying to grow stuff, as soon as they get out of the coop, or if they want to escape, they're in the garden, they're scratching, they're covering up the crops, or destroying something. Yeah. All right, our market. So that's the whole reason. We're tying to the community to be a benefit to our community of community health and
River Valley Farmer Market is where we kind of cut our teeth on that and bring our produce. And it's just awesome to make those relationships with the people in our community, make that connection, because you're connecting on a food level, but it's also, we tell the story too of how we grow things and the principles behind it in order to work with nature, not against it, to work with the way that God designed it to work with plants and soil, and not fight it with constant methods of death, right? That's how our commercial agriculture has, what can we kill or what do we need to kill? Instead of looking at it that way, how do we promote life in there? And so, and that really translates, and we do foster care, or we did, and we've had like a bunch of kids through our house, and it's amazing to see these kids start to eat fresh produce that's local grown, and where they'll start choosing that before they had the quick snack out of the cupboard, or they want a salad, they want a fresh tomato or fresh cucumber. It's fun to see these kids. And that's little Ella there. She loves to ask for a cucumber. Or she'll go out to the high tunnel and pick one.
They become grazers.
Oh, it's awesome. It's a biochemical feedback. I mean, our bodies we recognize when there's nutrients there that our body needs. And so to see these kids, their eyes just get brighter and their smiles get wider, when they start having good nutrition. And so the farmers market, the main way that we have connected with our community, we keep our prices pretty low compared to probably what you have here in Sheridan or up in Billings because of our community. And we're really not in it to make a profit. If we can break even at the end of the year, we're pretty happy, and I can fill up my tax return. Yeah, that's a few tomatoes there. And so that's what we're kind of known for, is our heirloom tomatoes. Then we did do the CSAs for a number of years, like 6, 7 years. We did quit doing that because it becomes such a milk cow for us, and we get so busy with our kids going off to college and everything else. So now I just do like Tuesday nights. You can come out to the farm, and you can just a la carte, whatever you want. We'll go pick it and weigh it. You just pay by the pound or by the bundle or whatever. And it's not the most profitable to do that, but at least it gives people opportunity to come out.
So the CSA was more profitable for you?
Yeah, CSA is community supported agriculture. You pay up front
Done.
in the season.
Mhm.
Yep.
I've done
So
one before.
yeah, so weekly basket of whatever is fresh and available, you can come and gather, or we'll have it ready for you.
And they would deliver, well, they had some that they would deliver, and then they would go to a market also, so, I mean. it's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, if you have a big enough, we're pretty small scale. We would have about 25 CSA members.
Oh, yeah, this is,
Yeah, we probably have hundreds, and so we have and this is how the CSA would work. They'd come out and pick up a bundle. We have a wash shed that we were able to get through, build out for our vegetable deal through a GTA grant that's available in Montana. Farm to school is another great thing that we like, because we can take it in bulk to the school and they pay for it, and they have money available to do that by locally. So talk to your local school, see if they have a farm to school program. That's definitely a great way to connect with kids. We'll go in and meet your farmer day. The kids can come and sample stuff and see who grows it. We can talk to them and show them different varieties. Love that connection. This is St. LeBray School out of Ashland, Montana. They come out every year now and help out on field day kind of thing. They want to help plant or pick. And so it's just great to connect these kids with the soil. Local food bank, especially since COVID, they had all this money to be able to buy local too. And so they have grants available to purchase. You don't have to donate if they have that available. And our food bank coordinator, she came to us saying, hey, we will buy what you got, to bring it in. And it works. I mean, obviously at fair market value. And one thing we didn't realize when we began this is the specialty market, since our locations along the Bighorn River, is the lodges. They have their own chefs for their high-class clients that come in. And these guys, they were excited to see that they could get local-grown, nutrient-dense food. And so this is some of our vegetables with lambs chopped, and we've got some peppers there, and then this one's with the octopus, and it's got our red kitten spinach that we grow, and our pepperoni, peppers. And Salanova lettuce, there's a real famous pop star singer that had some of that lettuce right there, I can't say the name. Rhymes with Dustin Weaver. That was kind of a fluke deal, but yeah, That's our claim to fame. So that's all.